Hello, welcome to this edition of Staying Ahead of the Curve. I'm Jeff Snyder, Vice President and Senior Consultant with Cammack Retirement Group, and I'm here joined today by David Brine, who's the Communications Director for the State of Washington. David, great to see you today.
Great to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
So we're here at NASRA. NASRA is obviously a very important and prestigious organization. You deal a lot with communications and communicating to members. Wonder if you could share, we've previously had Marcy Frost on talking about your organization and your thought process and your, about managing reputation and where you're going as an organization. But can you describe for the audience the thought process around communicating to the members?
Well, DRS is a customer satisfaction driven organization, so it begins with us interviewing our members and finding it out from them. What are we doing right? How can we get better at what we do? And part of that conversation is, how do we better communicate with you? And so our approach is driven in large part by what we hear from our customers and what they like in terms of information and what the ways they like to get it, what channels they like to get it through. So for us, a lot of the emphasis is around retirement readiness and helping them understand that they need to have their eyeballs on their projected retirement income and whether that's actually going to meet their goals. So we're on a journey of taking all that information and figuring out how do we continue to ramp up our efforts to reach our members and make sure that they are paying attention to their retirement, especially earlier in their career. As they near the end, we have lots of information about going through the retirement process, but the real challenge is catching folks as they come into the system and as they reach their waypoints in their career.
I think what's really interesting in having had the opportunity to work with you and your organization, that the hybrid, what we'll call the hybrid plan, the Plan 3, is rather unique. It's probably the oldest, if I'm not mistaken, the oldest hybrid plan. But your communications messages have to be around the DC plan, the hybrid, the deferred comp, as well as the traditional pension. Challenges with that in terms of messaging, or maybe you've got that down?
It is a challenge in terms of getting folks to pay attention to it as they enter the system, because they do have a choice for the major systems between whether they want to do a pure DB plan or if they want to do the hybrid DB-DC plan, and they have 90 days to make that choice. And we present the information in an unbiased way. We don't favor one plan or the other. They're both over the other. They're both good plans, but they fit different circumstances depending on where individuals are headed in their careers, how mobile they're going to be, things of that nature. So we want to provide that information to them in a way they can digest it at a time when, you know what it's like when you come onto a new job. You have all this paperwork to fill out, you have this information from HR, you have a ton of decisions to make, and one of them is a lifetime decision about what is your retirement plan going to be. Because once they make it, it's irrevocable. And so we have a lot of emphasis at the front end about 90 days to choose. You need to pay attention to this. Here are some tools, here's some things to think about, here's ways that you can customize it to your situation and then make a choice.
People communicate and accept information and process information in a multitude of ways. Some are listening, some are watching videos. How do you figure out and determine what medium is the best way, or do you use multiple channels in order to reach people? I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of research in this area, especially around the behavior of people. How do you figure out how best to target your employee population?
It's tough. Anybody in the communications business will tell you that people are bombarded with messages about things that they want them to buy or things they want them to do or behaviors they want them to change all day long. And so we're competing with all that noise. It begins with making sure that we have access to multiple channels, because you're right, people do access their information in different ways. We of course use the mainstays of publications. We use a website that we try and make as user-friendly, as accessible as possible. We use some social media channels, mostly we use Facebook and LinkedIn, and we have a video channel that we use. But it's an ongoing challenge to reach all those folks. I think one of the ones we found to be most effective is an email service that we've subscribed to for the past several years called GovDelivery, specifically designed for government organizations. And it allows customers to basically select the topics that they're interested in to get email alerts on. So ranging from just news articles to changes in administrative factors to rules updates. They can select up to 45 topics that they want to get information on, or just one, or somewhere in between. So that's one way of letting the customer actually customized to his or her desires what kind of information they'd like to get from us, and that way we know better how to customize our information to go to that particular topic subset.
You mentioned so you get feedback the way you just described. You talked about the surveys. From a process point of view, how often are these surveys conducted? And then the time from getting the feedback to implementation, I would imagine, is pretty quick because you're very customer driven as an organization.
What we did, and I think we've talked about this before in some other instances, is what we did is we went out and interviewed about 1,000 of our customers with the simple question: what would it take for you to be 100% satisfied customer of DRS? From that, we got a lot of feedback, and all of our team members were involved in distilling that into basically a set of criteria of expectations. What do our customers expect for them to be satisfied? And it distilled down to what we call the 3 R's, which is respectful, responsive, and right being accurate. And we now interview, we have 80 of our team leaders are expected to interview at least one person who is recently retired, and take that interview information and compare it to the criteria of respectful, responsive, and right, and score it. And so it's all very qualitative. We take all that information and we compile it into a database, and we begin to see themes emerge. One of the themes we saw emerge in terms of being responsive was folks thought that our online retirement application was a little bit complicated and they weren't quite sure of the status of their application. That was a recurring theme we saw, and we weren't meeting that expectation for customer satisfaction. We took that, we worked with our IT team and our project teams, and we actually made some improvements where there's now a tracker as you go through the retirement process online that shows exactly where you are in the process. It reminds you if you haven't finished something, and it sends you updates by email to let you know that you need to complete something if you haven't completed it. So that's an example of how we use that customer satisfaction interview material to basically making process improvements.
As a firm, as a show, we've been focusing on technology. Mm-hmm. Have you, as an organization, thought about mobile apps, wearables, how to incorporate all those into your overall service delivery?
We have. I think it probably goes back to our longer range plans for providing tools to our members that they can use to actually project their retirement income and compare it against a goal. We're still in the process of getting those tools in place, but the idea is that right up front, in a very prominent way, we show people, here's, for example, an 80% replacement income target. Here's where you are. You're not quite there. So if you're not quite there, here are some tools you can use, like get involved in our 457 plan or other things you can do to up your retirement readiness. When those tools are in place, I think the platforms will evolve, mobile, being responsive on the website. There's a number of ways you can go with that, but yes, the idea is we need to have more ways to access that information.
Changing gears slightly, we're here at the NASRA conference in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We've talked with Director Bilyeu and her team about the camaraderie, the spirit of working together as systems, but every system has to have a team. This is such a complex industry with customer-facing people who are working in administrative and operations in order to make things happen. To you, as a team member, how important is the team to your overall success as an organization? Well,
it's everything. We're very fortunate at DRS to have a leadership team and a group of team members as an entire agency that we call ourselves one team. We are all focused on one thing, and that's to make sure that the customer gets everything that he or she needs to have a successful retirement. And we support each other. We make sure that we have great information sharing. We have great debates. And we attend conferences like this to learn more from our peers about how we can continue to grow ourselves, not only in terms of our leadership, but our the mechanics, the IT systems, the organizational change management, record keeper transitions. There's a lot of information sharing that we appreciate as a team, and we bring that back to our leadership team. We'll talk about the learnings that we brought from here.
Yeah, I think people who are not involved in this industry don't see all the moving pieces. I don't think that really goes into providing services to either a defined benefit plan or a defined contribution plan. So it's good to shed a little bit of light. David, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck to you for the rest of your NASRA experience.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.